And the crazy part is native territories do have resources, but they get screwed out of them. I mean, in 1920, the richest people in the United States were the Osage in Oklahoma. The Osage. Why? Because oil was discovered on the lands that they had acquired when they were forced to leave their ancestral homelands back east. They acquired the land in Oklahoma, and they made sure they acquired the mineral rights and the rights below plow's depth. So the Osage were the richest people in the United States in 1920. And you know what? And you know what happened?
Without looking further into it, I'm going to say they still are all good.
They were never all good. They were murdered. There were literally white men that would move in on Native women, marry them, have children with them, and then murder their wives so they could control the head rights to wells. This is a story. There's a book called "Killers of the Flower Moon" by David Grant. I encourage you to take a look at it, and it talks about the Osage murders and the birth of the FBI. I mean, this was one of the first cases that the FBI investigated, but it was bungled and it was muffed. It was, the whole idea was they wanted to be able to attribute and it was maybe as many as 1,000 murders that took place there. They wanted to attribute it to one serial killer, which wasn't the case anyway. But that's just one example. The Navajo had a settlement a number of years ago because the federal government had screwed them out of their just payment for uranium that was mined off of their territories. And again, when the settlement came and it's, you hear something like $250 million. Wow, that's a lot of money. But you know what? There are over 200,000 Navajo. So when you break it down, it's not that much money. And it was still pennies on the dollar. We see oil. Look, there are extractive industries that exist on native territories, and some of them for fossil fuels. Lakota territory. There, the Bakken crude that is harvested off of those lands, the natural gas that is fracked for in those lands, and yet there are native people who freeze every single winter there. On the Canadian side, Attawapiskat, which is one of the poorest communities in Ontario, De Beers has a diamond mine there, and yet they live in shacks. And they live in abject poverty. So even when there are natural resources, whether they're minerals or whether it's logging or whether it's grazing, for cattle or whatever the resources are, the native people are going to get screwed out of the fair market value for any of that.
Mm-hmm. Christ.